Well, hey, hello, and how are you, everybody? For the first time, what feels like a while, I'm Dom Tibbetts. That's Matt Bovee. We're here talking as the Bills get ready. We're 2 more days, or well, 3 more days, one more
Yeah.
practice away from their upcoming Sunday matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Matt, a lot of different ways to go off this with the bye week coming in. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about first, kind of the big story is just the new influx of players. So Michael Hoyt,
Yeah.
Larry Ogunjobi, and of course, first-round rookie cornerback Maxwell Harrison. We've seen them back at practice in some capacity. Just so far, what have been your impressions of how you've seen kind of those three interject in the defense?
Well, I'll say this. I think Hoyt plays on Sunday. I think Ogunjobi plays on
Agreed.
Sunday. And the fact that I'm even thinking about Max Hairston possibly playing is pretty crazy, but he looks pretty good. From the only two practices we have seen, he looks fluid. He looks fast. He looks like he is ready to make his return. Now, that said, getting the playbook down, I think, is going to be the big hurdle
Yeah.
for a player like Max Hairston, just because there are so many things to learn. I don't think it's out of the question that there's a chance we see him next weekend against the Chiefs. I still feel like if we were circling a date on the Bills' schedule, it would be that Dolphins game. I think that's
Yeah.
November 9th, so that would be 2 weeks away. But Max Hairston looks good. Hoyt has made his impression felt early on. Ogunjobi, they need somebody to be a rotational defensive tackle, and with the injury to Daquan Jones, like he didn't practice again on Thursday, that's 2 consecutive days. They need Ogunjobi to play because it's
Yeah.
basically Ogunjobi, it's Deion Walker, and it's Ed Oliver, and they probably need to do something with either putting Zion Logue on the 53 for a couple weeks or maybe elevating one of the other practice squad defensive tackles. So far, so good from all of them. I do think that they'll make their impacts pretty quickly.
You know, it's funny. Yesterday, I talked to you. We were just talking about the defensive line, and I was like, "Oh, well, when they get Larry Ogunjobi back, and I've been saying this for weeks, like it's going to be such a good depth piece for him to have in a rotation basis." But you're like, "Hey, they're kind of just down a guy without Daquan Jones." So you kind of feel like the
Yeah.
impact from Larry
One in, one out,
Ogunjobi
yeah.
is going to have to be kind of prevalent. I also think Michael Hoyt just does so much on the defense in terms of he can go interior, he can go exterior on the defensive line. He can also talk or go back and play linebacker. That's something like Deion Dawkins noticed, right? Like he's down the field, you're seeing 55 catching up with the play on offensive side, looking at that perspective. I think with Max, you bring up an interesting point about the mental reps. I also just think like if you're the Bills, you need those live game reps for a rookie cornerback. Which game do you feel like you could get away with a little bit more where you're going to have some of that rust knocking off? I don't think
Not
you're going to see
Mahomes.
against Carolina going against Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice, like and Xavier Worthy, an
Yeah.
offense that's starting to really click in Kansas City. That's why I think it probably is just better for his confidence-wise, too. If you're going to pick any week, pure speculation, it's the Miami week.
The thing that's interesting is that you drafted a player with blazing speed because he can help you against opponents that also have blazing speed, like the Kansas City Chiefs. But do you want someone's first ever game and all of this time missed going up against an opponent like that? I don't know. If you
Yeah.
think that he's ready, I believe in trial by fire. I think throw somebody into the deep end of the pool and see what they can do.
Sure.
I think back to the beginning of the season when they were getting ready to play the Ravens. And I remember talking to both Deion Walker and TJ Sanders that week. And they had great answers of like, hey, if we do well, really good sign because we're going against Lamar Jackson. If we don't do well, it's a sign of look how much we need to improve to be able to go up against somebody of that caliber.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could approach it, but I mean, if he's ready, I think they'll get him back. I don't think he'll start. I still think it'll be Trey, but I think we see a rotation like they did with Dorian Strong, where it was, all right, Trey's on the field for 3 series in a row, and then here comes Max. Trey's on the field for 2 series in a row, and here comes Max, or
Yeah.
something that looks like that.
If that's the case, I like that against a team like Kansas City. But I also just thought it's like, hey, you drafted a first-round corner in the first round with this blazing speed, all these parameters that the Bills have really liked. I almost feel like your expectation there is you want him to start. You want to
Yeah.
put him in a role where he feels confident.
Let's see him play.
Yeah, and even if like you go against a Kansas City team that has an explosive offense, what does that do for a rookie's confidence if he gets torched? Like
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, this whole offense, that's not an easy assignment for even, let's just say like a good veteran cornerback. Let's say like Benford, a guy who they lean on so much. Like that's still a tough assignment for him, right?
Yeah.
So like confidence-wise, I think that's also the mental side of that argument you brought up with Harrison is like, how do you approach that if you're the Bills? So guess we'll just have to wait and see there.
Let me say this too, though, because I feel like there is a portion of the fan base who will say, couldn't be any worse than Tre'Davious White. I wholeheartedly disagree with that because I do think that Tre'Davious White always knows where he needs to be. And even though there are deficiencies in his game at this point in his career, you could do a whole lot worse than what you have. And I feel that way
Certainly.
about a lot of different positions out on the field. So I'm not saying that they need to be really, really patient or overly patient, but I also think like let's pump the brakes on just like anybody would be better, because I don't feel that way.
Right. You want to talk about somebody else who probably knows where they need to be on the field?
Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
Well done. Good transition. We've been doing this for a while. Jordan Poyer, I think, is going to play on Sunday. I mean, I think he's going to even probably start.
I mean,
on
there's
Sunday.
no indication to me that Taylor Rapp's playing Sunday.
Well, we haven't seen him 2 days into practice this week, so no Wednesday, no Thursday. And I know he's somebody, but the fact that it's a lingering knee injury and Sean McDermott wouldn't put an initial timetable on it, whether it was day to day or week to week, tells me that they'll probably be without him for at least a little bit. Here's the thing, though. This is interesting. When I say it couldn't be any worse, I feel that way too about safety. I feel like Jordan Poyer can step into that role. Even though he's not the same player he was, even though he's not as fast as he was, I feel like if it's Jordan Poyer and Cole Bishop, your safety position, could he be even a little bit improved?
Recency bias, because I just, the freshest game in your mind is the Falcons game. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because the safety room just hasn't been there. I think
hasn't
Cole
been
has taken the right progression steps. It still isn't 100% there.
Sort of,
but
yeah.
better than Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
Taylor Rapp has regressed.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at the film and the way that the safety room has just played over the past
Makes you
couple of
wonder
games.
about the injury too. Like if
No.
this is like a lingering knee injury, because Sean put that in there when he talked about Taylor Rapp. He's like, "Oh, it's a knee injury that has lingered since training camp." So that pops that makes you start to think a little bit of like, "Oh, wonder if that's why there have been some mistakes, or
Right.
he hasn't looked as quick
Rapp-
closing down plays."
Rapp's been a guy too. Like he's had injury problems. Like he's popped up on injury reports. He's just it's look at the way he plays. I mean, he's so physical.
Yeah, right.
He is contact first always.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing can pop up. That's an interesting point. But Jordan Poyer being put on this field, I think when you're just trying to kind of, I don't want to say tread water, because the Bills are a better team than using the analogy treading water, but you've got to get back in the win column. You've got to go beat a team in Carolina that you should be taking care of business against. Go bring a guy like Jordan Poyer in there who just knows this defense, knows where he's going to be. The best way I described it, high floor, low ceiling.
Yeah, I think
like
that's
right there.
yeah.
Perfect way. I think you know what you're going to get with Jordan Poyer. You're probably not going to get any explosive play, but you might get some solid contribution in there, at least for
Good
you.
tackling,
Right.
Some physicality,
which has not been another strong suit for the Bills defense. So it could be much worse than having a guy like Jordan Poyer have to step in and play alongside Cole Bishop.
Let me ask you, what do you want to see out of the offense this week? Because obviously that's a big factor. The defense played well enough in the second half against the Falcons where they only gave up 3 points, and they gave their offense even a chance to win that game. The offense has not been good. I thought it was interesting. We heard from Josh Allen on Wednesday. He said that they need to keep the energy up. They have a lot of things that they need to correct. He talked about taking a call from his grandma. She was like, "I need you to smile more." A lot of people were wondering, like, hey, is this guy depressed, or what's going on, and why are we not seeing the energy we're used to out on the field? Like, what do you need to see from the offense to make you feel like they're figuring things out slowly but surely?
I think the easy answer, and like most fans, you're probably going to think like, oh, you need to see Josh Allen be able to throw the ball around, wide receivers get separation. I think that's all it too. I just want to see more of a balance. Like what worked the first 3 weeks? The Saints game was a little bit again, he had a great performance in the Saints game too, but I want to see James Cook start to get more of that influx back into this offense. Again, I want to see them lean on James Cook more, try to get that run game a little bit stronger in the way that it was at the beginning of the season, because I think that just allows Josh Allen, where now defenses don't automatically have to okay, Josh Allen is going to throw the ball on this down and this down and this down. It's a pass attack heavy offense. You have that balance in there. I think that opens up so much more. And you didn't have Dalton Kincaid back. We don't know what his full status will be for Sunday too. So that could also help as well. James Cook, I just want to see more out of him. I want to see this team get back to the things that were working well the first 3 weeks. How about you?
I want to see the involvement from the running backs in the passing game. I feel like that has been something that is missing for almost all of this season, because that was such a staple of this offense last year.
That's how Ty Johnson was just making a living.
Ty Johnson was great. I think about so many different games. I think about the crazy touchdown he caught against the Broncos. I think about the great game he had against Detroit. I'm not even just talking about Ty Johnson, though. I'm also talking about James Cook. Also.
And even, let's talk Ray Davis.
Well, Ray Davis, I believe, had a receiving touchdown against them. He did. He had a receiving touchdown against the Falcons.
So there you go.
But that's an outlier, just because that whole game was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
I just want to see that more consistently, because I do feel like that could be the get out of jail free play for the Bills when things go wrong, of oh, I don't have anybody open down the field, nobody's getting separation, but I know I have this dump off to insert running back here, and that should be able to go for a gain of a couple yards, or maybe pick up a couple first downs that way. So I want to see that. I want to see some answers to man coverage. They've struggled with that a little bit. Obviously, the offensive line needs to do a little bit of a better job. You brought up the stat earlier of like they've given up 12 sacks in the regular season this year. They gave up 14 all of last season. I don't think that's just on the offensive line. So they got a lot of things. I'll say this: I'm not nearly as concerned about the offense as I am about the defense.
No, and why would you be?
Because they have Josh Allen.
Precisely.
Right?
And like I know that's like the thing we sit like it's the most common the go-to like excuse that like is built in with this offense. But it is true though. Because like you lost by 3 points to the Patriots and then refresh
10
me on
points.
10 points to the
24 to
Falcons
14.
too. But then again, garbage time touchdown a little bit. Just got away from the defense as well. The offense is fine. There are definitely concerns, and I do think eventually this will get figured out. We'll have a much bigger discussion about what this team could possibly do at the trade deadline. That's a whole different conversation.
Well, if they lose to the Panthers, we're having a very different discussion next week.
100%. But yeah, I think defense is where my more concerns are. But offensively, I want to see the run get a little bit more established. If it involves the running backs in the passing game, cool with that too. Defense, I just need to see some sort of steady improvement. Like let's just see the pass rush get back up there again. You don't know who you're going against, right? It's Bryce Young or Andy Dalton.
No, it's Andy
right?
Dalton. It's Andy Dalton. It'll be Andy Dalton.
How crazy would that be, though? Andy Dalton, guy helped get the Bills out of the playoff drought.
You
He
should
starts.
Smoke Andy.
Right.
Listen, like you're going up against a backup quarterback. You're coming off of a bye. Sean McDermott and the Bills are 8-0 coming off of a bye in his tenure year. They've lost 2 games in a row during this entire 6-year stretch where they've won the division every single year. This being the 6th year, they have never lost 3 games in a row. So you have all of these things. This would be a massive, massive like panic button, slam it if you cannot figure out a way to win this. I mean, a backup quarterback. And also, not for anything, there are like as many people from Buffalo in Carolina as there are anywhere else in the country. So I would imagine there are a ton of Bills fans at that game. It is not a super hostile environment that you are going into. They have Rico Dowdle, Tet McMillan. Like those are the 2 guys on that offense that you really need to be concerned about. Figure out a way to shut them down.
Yeah, I think they get it done. But also, I felt pretty confident about the Atlanta Falcons too. But it's just one of those situations where I think the Falcons just had a really good game plan. It's a fluky game. You mentioned the 2 in a row. I feel very confident in this team coming off a bye week. They just always seem to reset it. And I think that's just kind of one of those things that comes to be a testament of the locker room culture. And that's something Dion touched with us on Thursday here. So we'll see. Is there any other points before we kind of wrap this up?
No, bye week coming at a good time.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's Matt Bove. I'm Dom Tibbetts. Talk to you guys soon.